Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by the Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Joe Everett. Well, currently 38 degrees outside this morning, and just a little over 3/10 sitting in the rain gauge from yesterday. Here on our farm, we've been hauling some grain, and as I've been out, I've been seeing a lot of farmers moving some grain as well as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday. Now looking at some of your agricultural news headlines. Feeder cattle futures rallied yesterday on news that the United States is halting imports of Mexican cattle following the detection of a New World screwworm in Mexico. On November 22nd, the chief veterinary officer of Mexico notified the United States Department of Agriculture's Animal and Health Plant Inspection Service of a cow with screwworm in the southern Mexico state of Chiapas, according to the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service news release on November 24th. Given the severity of the threat of screwworm NWS, the American Plant Health Inspection Service is restricting the importation of animal commodities, including live cattle, from or transiting Mexico effective immediately. The USDA eradicated NWS from the United States in 1966 using the sterile insect technique, a pest control method that uses mass-produced, sterilized insects to reduce or eliminate insect populations. Mexican feeder cattle imports are nearly 1.2 million head so far this year in 2024, up 13% from last year. Canadian numbers, however, are 12% lower, totaling just over 137,000 head compared to a year ago. We just don't have enough feeder cattle in the United States, and with the restrictions on Mexican cattle, it's hard to tell where prices will go and how long they will last, says DTN livestock analyst Shaylee Stewart. Now let's join Dale for an industry update from the National Farm Broadcasters Convention.
Joining me from Corteva Agrisciences is Chris Klemke. What's new and exciting when we talk about Corteva and where they serve today's producer needs?
So I work on the nitrogen stabilization team, and so nitrogen stabilizers are one thing that we have to resell to our grower every year. You can't go out there and see a dead weed or see us keeping nitrogen in the ammonium form longer. So we do a lot of trials with growers every year. Our team does. We work with universities. And so just would like to report a few results that we're seeing with nitrogen stabilizers this year.
Well, tell me about that, but also tell me, how will you use AI as a company to help producers get to this comparison and look at the bigger picture? Can AI help you with that?
That's a very good question, and I'm sure Corteva is looking at it, and we're just out collecting data. For us, it's bigger to get the grower to use the product and find out the value for themselves, because a lot of times, I see that, but does it work on my farm?
And again, the website for more information for people who just got to know?
Yeah, if you want to know more about our nitrogen stabilizers, go to nitrogenstabilizers.com or visit your local retailer.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. And to hear this full interview, check out the featured audio at ohioagnet.com. After many years of having a minimal presence in the market, U.S. red meat is gaining traction in Cuba, due in part to an expansion of private sector buying. To help U.S. suppliers capitalize on this opportunity, the U.S. Meat Export Federation recently held an educational seminar in Miami, bringing exporters and prospective buyers together to learn more about the procedures for conducting business in Cuba. U.S. Meat Export Federation Caribbean representative Elizabeth Wunderlich has more.
There's excitement about the market. Our members just jumped at the chance for meeting all of these buyers. They made effort to come and learn about how to actually do business in Cuba. And we brought in an expert who has been working with exporting, but also with our government to understand how to muddle through all the regulations. And he did a super job of explaining the steps that you have to go to make this happen.
Through September, U.S. pork exports to Cuba totaled 5,843 metric tons, up 322% from the same period last year, valued at $17.2 million. On the beef side of things, Cuba currently takes mostly canned products, but shipments are up sharply. January through September exports increased more than 1,500% from a year ago, reaching 3,234 metric tons, valued at $5.4 million. For U.S. lamb entering Cuba, 387 metric tons of variety meat exports were reported through September, valued at $1.5 million. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at today's weather after this.
Since 1926, Nationwide has been rooted in agriculture. Founded as the Farm Bureau Mutual Automobile Insurance Company with a mission to protect farmers and their communities, we honor our legacy by offering solutions that evolve with the complex needs of today's farms. As the leading insurer of America's farms and trusted by 8 farm bureaus for 100 years and counting, Nationwide is on your side. Number 1 insurer based on 2023 direct written premium per AM Best. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Nearly 90% of farmers say that financial worries, constantly changing market conditions, and other uncontrollable variables take a toll on their mental well-being. Add in the weather and family dynamics, well, it's a lot to handle alone. But did you know farmers and their families can receive free confidential services from licensed professionals? Support is available 24/7 to help with the challenges you face. Look for Farm Family Wellness Alliance under the Resources tab at farmfoundation.org. Take care of yourself. Your well-being matters.
Now let's take a look at today's weather, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
We've got a mix of clouds and sunshine for your Tuesday after some moisture tried to come through overnight. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at your forecast update. Ohio here doesn't look too shabby for your Tuesday, but we're not done with moisture for the week yet. I think for a mix of clouds and sun today, we're going to be a little bit cooler than yesterday, but otherwise nothing earth-shattering. Tomorrow we start with clouds and sun, but clouds build through the midday and afternoon. Overnight, tomorrow night, we have a cloudy sky and moisture comes in. A system coming out of the Missouri Valley wants to track just south of us. And that's going to put some precipitation into Ohio right on through probably midday on Thanksgiving. I'm going to say rain or wet snow at this point. I think it can be either. Liquid equivalents, probably 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. So if it's all snow, we're just not going to be looking at a massive problem. But I also don't think it's all snow at this point. There's been a lot of hype over this system. Timing does suggest there's going to be some wet snow with it, but how we see it cover and what it does is still up in the air. I'm going to say 90% coverage over the Buckeye State with precipitation of rain and wet snow. We should get moisture done by afternoon, Thanksgiving, clearing out overnight Thursday night, and then on again, off again clouds through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because much colder air comes in, takes control. Lake effect is going to ramp up, so we have plenty of clouds coming off the Great Lakes. On again, off again, spit sprinkles and flurries in lake effect areas, but not so much anywhere else, and this brutally cold air wants to hold all the way through most of next week. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, yesterday afternoon, the last USDA Weekly Crop Progress Report came out for 2024. Let's take a look at those numbers. The Ohio Crop Progress Report update is sponsored by AgriSpray Drones, empowering rural America through complete spray drone solutions. You can contact them at agrispraydrones.com/Arnold Precision. Starting with the national numbers, winter wheat planting moved ahead by another 3 points nationally last week to reach 97% complete. That was equal to last year's pace, but 1 point behind the 5-year average of 98%. As for the crop development, an estimated 89% of the winter wheat had emerged. That was 1 point behind last year's 90%, but equal to the 5-year average. Top producer Kansas crop was at 96% emerged, 6 points ahead of the state's 5-year average of 90%. As for the crop condition, an estimated 55% of their winter wheat had emerged and was in good to excellent condition, up 6 points from 49% the previous week. That is now ahead of last year's rating of 50% good to excellent. 12% of the crop was rated very poor to poor, another 3 percentage point improvement from 15% the previous week. Now looking at your numbers from the Buckeye State, topsoil moisture condition was rated 35% short to very short. The average temperature for the week was 44.5 degrees, and that is 4.2 degrees above normal. There were 3.1 days suitable for field work during the week. As for winter wheat emerged, this week was rated 97%. That is 3 points ahead of last week and 1 point behind last year, and even with the 5-year average. As for the crop condition, 70% of the winter wheat was rated good to excellent. U.S. agriculture groups react to President-elect Donald Trump's picking of Brooke Rollins as his nominee for Secretary of Agriculture. Brooke Rollins has fought for Main Street and rural America, says National Cattlemen's Beef Association Vice President of Government Affairs Ethan Lane. National Corn Growers Association President Kenneth Hartman Jr. says, we are ready to work on issues of importance to production agriculture, including expanding markets here and overseas for U.S. corn. Rob LaRue, president of the National Farmers Union, hopes her roots instilled in her the important role that family farmers and ranchers play in supporting the national economy. The National Sorghum Producers Chairwoman, Amy France, says that this is an important moment in U.S. agriculture, and they are optimistic about the opportunities her leadership will bring to rural America. We also look forward to working with her to support our farmers and our communities, says Jack Pettis of the American Sugar Alliance. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at the grain analysis and your overnight markets after this.
In a time of tight margins when every penny counts, could you be saving more on your monthly energy bill? Ohio Farm Bureau is here to help members get competitive electric and natural gas supply prices through its energy savings program. Participants save an average of 10% on their rates. Let Ohio Farm Bureau help you take the guesswork out of energy savings. Request your free bill analysis at ofb.ag/energy program. Savings not guaranteed. Actual savings may vary.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
It's now time for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, and that's brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain market started the week off on Monday with a mixed to mostly lower close. Corn was down fractionally to about 2 3/4. We saw beans up 1 to 3 cents. The wheat markets were weaker in Chicago, KC, and Minneapolis. However, Minneapolis was down only about 5 to 6, while the other two were down 9 to 10 cents. Overall, the market was pretty sluggish. Remember, this is a holiday-shortened week here. March corn going to be watching the 50-day moving average very, very closely. Whether we close below that here over the next couple of days or not, it remains to be seen. The grains last week were up and down due to geopolitical risk, Russia, Ukraine, and everything else. This week, we're trying to figure out whether there's anything over there going on, but I think lots of the wheat risk that came in on that geopolitical idea was mitigated late last week by Argentina's wheat offers being substantially cheaper than Black Sea areas. We did have a flash reported sale yesterday of 454,000 metric tons of corn to Mexico. The sale comes after 9 trading sessions of no daily corn flashes. Mexico remains the largest destination for 24-25 corn. Speculation is growing that Mexico has secured more than 17 million metric tons of corn during the crop year to date. Feeder cattle futures rallied to strong opening gains on reports that APHIS found screwworms in Mexican cattle that would close the border for 30 days. That would impact more than 100,000 head of feeder imports and create a greater reliance on U.S. feeder supply availability. That means more mouths to eat grain. That is something that we need to watch on the corn side of things just a little bit. Back to corn, 50-day moving average is in at 433.5. Watch that very closely on the March contract as we move through the days ahead. Other than that, it was a relatively boring day, all things considered. We'll see if there's any more action today, but remember, volume will be quite low the rest of this week. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight markets, brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Well, everything's in the red in Chicago. Let's start off with December corn, 422 3/4, down 2. March corn, 431 1/4, down 1 3/4. January soybeans, 984 1/2, down 1 1/4. March soybeans, 993, down 1 1/4. December wheat, 533 1/4, down 2 1/2. Now looking at livestock from yesterday's close, December live cattle 186.50, down 27 cents. February live cattle 187.70, down 50 cents. December lean hogs 81.97, up 30 cents. February lean hogs 85.92, up 25 cents. March feeder cattle 254.32, up $1.20. April feeder cattle 255.52, up $1.17. December class 3 milk 18.64, up 23 cents. To stay up to date on all the latest agricultural news, you can find that at ohioagnet.com. Thanks for joining us and have a great day, everyone. I'm Joe Everett, and this is the Ohio AgNet.